fourth episode, Dirt Exchange Podcast. We're kind of getting rolling on this deal, having one every week.
We really are, and shockingly, they're letting us keep moving forward.
I know, and talked to a couple people the other night, and the feedback's on it's good. They like it.
Hearing a lot of good feedback, more than I had figured.
Yeah,
so pretty cool.
Today's show, I should say, we got a couple things. We're going to talk a little bit more of the dealer world as opposed to the grower and the farmer world that we have been talking about. And we finally had a chance to catch up with Andy Arps from Platte Valley Equipment. They've been absolutely slammed in the shop. It's their busy time. You know, people are getting ready for harvest now.
Of course.
And fixing stuff that they broke during planting and that kind of stuff. So finally got a chance to catch up with him, and we'll go out there at the end of the show and talk to him a little bit. But let's talk about remarketing, equipment remarketing. It's always a hot topic.
Great topic.
You know,
Chris.
there's a lot to it. The main goal in remarketing is to obtain optimal value for a used piece of equipment. Now, there's a few different ways that you can get a used piece of equipment. It can be a trade-in, it can be a purchase, lease turn-in, or even repos. You know, we hate to hear that, but unfortunately that does happen. Probably one of the main things once you start remarketing your used piece is listing it in a retail avenue. What are some pros and cons that you see in retail listing or marketing retail?
Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, I'm going to get to that, but one thing about remarketing, Chris, is we can either make it complicated as can be, or we can make it simple.
Right.
And we're here today to give a few guidelines of how to make it simple.
Yeah.
But some of the pros and cons, I suppose, I think the first thing is the expense.
Yeah.
Of really advertising at retail. There are several different avenues.
Yeah. Whether it's your own website or a third-party company that you list it with, for exposure. Cost is a huge part of that,
Yeah, because, like you had brought up, you have your website remarketing, where, essentially what you're doing is remarketing that piece to your existing customers.
Yeah.
And so forth. So that takes time and money and that. And then, retaking pictures, we're going to get to that again.
Yep.
But that takes time and money and I guess the pro on that side, if a customer or a dealer or what have you can get that piece sold retail, is more cash in their pocket.
Well, yeah, there's more cash potential.
Potentially more cash.
Yep. As long as you're smart about it, because a good situation, and whether you trade for the piece or buy it right or whatever it may be,
right,
a good decision can turn into a bad decision pretty quick with the way markets go and how seasonal stuff is. Because you got to think about things like floor planning. The longer you have it, the more money you're going to do that, and also just the cost of ownership, the lot rot per se. Sitting on the lot, batteries go dead. It might have a slow leak in a tire, and then you got to fix it and that kind of stuff. But
that's a good point. I mean, you've got to look at how much you've got to put back into the machine.
Yeah.
Or the piece of equipment.
Cost of ownership
is
even
can be
for a
tremendous.
Dealer.
I mean, so you have to look at different avenues.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about websites a little bit because the environment that we're in this business, technology is a huge component.
It is.
For it. So you have guys that have a website and they do a little bit with it, but they don't fully understand how some of that works. And that is your digital storefront.
It is.
For a guy like myself, if I'm shopping for a tractor and I see one, down in the South, in Mississippi or Louisiana or Texas or wherever it may be, that representation of their website is how I view their company.
Yes.
And not only myself, but also Google, because let's be honest, Google is the leader in search engines, right?
It is.
And they prioritize things a little bit different on how things show up. It's not just traffic based or how long you've had the website. They do a lot of stuff, and they're putting a lot of focus on what people refer to now as responsive sites.
Right.
So that's a site that you pull up on your desktop and see how it looks. You can pull it up on your phone or your tablet or anything that's a smaller screen, and it's still going to give you that desktop feel. It's not going to be watered down. It's going to look similar or the same across the board for a better user experience. And they see that. So they are, putting more emphasis behind that and boosting those up in the search results. There's also stuff like, your page worth. A website has a page worth. The more stuff you have on your website, the more it's worth to Google as far as the page counts go. There's a lot of dealers out there that do things like blogs, which bring a lot of page counts. Because if you're searching for something, it pulls up one of your key terms. Google looks at all these things, and it's like, oh, this page or this website has 54 pages, but this one has 260. Well, that 260 page is more apt to have the info that you're looking for, so they're going to try to direct you to that one. So make sure that you're putting in the effort digitally when you're remarketing your stuff, and that goes with pictures as well. A lot of people think that you can take 5-6 pictures, put the serial number on it and a short description, and anybody who looks at it's going to know what it is.
Right.
That's not the case.
Right.
In a lot of cases, these people are buying pieces from all over the world. They might not ever see that piece in person until it shows up at their doorstep. So, take a lot of pictures. I recommend, 40 is kind of the number.
Depending on the piece, but I
Yes.
mean, if you've got a worthwhile piece, 40 minimum, yeah. Definitely.
And
Definitely.
show everything that is relevant to selling that machine or that tells the story of that machine.
Right.
Right. And make sure you take them horizontally. Don't take them vertical, so you get a good, solid picture, as well.
One thing I wanted to bring up, you brought up Google.
Yeah.
And you brought up the website and so forth. And the remarketing situation, most of the time our dealers or whatever industry you might be in, you may remarket to your current customers, right?
Yeah.
And that's all fine and dandy, but there's got to be this remarketing versus retargeting type situation. And if you're just emailing or just basically advertising through your website to your current customers, you're just really shifting that piece back to the customers, which is fine.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. But one way to also, and our marketing department is pretty good at this, we will infiltrate Google AdWords, for instance, and hit different demographics.
Yeah. Well, and it's all about expanding your clientele, because if you could sell everything that you had on your lot to the people that are within your DMA or within 30-40 miles of your store, there's no need for anything else. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
It's not anymore.
You need to reach out. I mean, the fact of living in Nebraska and buying a piece in Florida, it's kind of becoming the norm, and people are shipping them and transporting them. It's no big deal. It's like,
no big deal
it's
anymore.
Like, it's normal. So one of the other things to kind of touch on the remarketing side is the auction approach. Now, I have some dealers that I've worked with that are heavy auction people. They do the turn and burn type thing. Sure, they get a little bit less margins, but they make their money in the volume that they push.
It can be a quicker turnaround.
Yeah,
it really can be.
And then you're also getting more potential customers that you typically would not have seen.
Well, I mean, a great point to that, greater customers. A great point to that is if you're advertising on an auction, and that you're going to get calls and so forth on those pieces.
Yeah.
And a great point to this is when you do get those calls, who says if they're not interested in that piece per se, or if it doesn't fit their mold, that you can't upsell or side sell?
Well, and
or cross sell.
Yeah, or save their info, and it's a lead generator.
It's a lead generator.
You might be selling a power quad, but they wanted an ILS or a power shift, for instance. Save that. You run across that, reach back out to them.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, that's one of the quick turnaround. The potential new customers are all pros of using an auction service for your remarketing. One of the other things is, you potentially have a guaranteed sale depending on how you do it. There's several different companies out there. I challenge everybody to do the research and find the one that works best for them. But you have the option of selling absolute, and some of them you have the option of selling absolute and selling with a reserve to protect your item, and your investment. So there is a certain amount of risk in auctioning. If you go with a no reserve type auction, I think it's going to bring what it's going to bring, and it's going to.
Well, you just don't have control.
Right.
You have no control over that asset.
In a situation where if you listed something with a reserve, you have the control. You can decide when to pull the plug or to let it roll.
Full control of that piece, so so you don't lose your butt in an absolute sale.
And one of the things that I really like about auctions is I personally think that online equipment auctions are the way of the future. They're here, and there's a lot of them, and everybody's doing well. But I think they're the way of the future, where you're going to see less and less retail marketing and more auction style marketing, because you get that what I call wholesale, right?
That's a good point.
You list a piece. You list a piece on there, and you have the dealers, the wholesalers, or the jockeys that come in, and they set the floor.
Yep.
Right. So they're going to bid up to what they think wholesale value is.
Yes.
Then you have Farmer Bill down the road that sees this piece and believes that he can probably buy this because it's an auction. He can buy it a little bit cheaper than he could driving down to the dealership and getting it. So yeah, it moves it up in between that wholesale retail type number. Now, we've seen it where you get full-blown retail and then more.
You do, and it all depends on the demand of that piece.
Every auction, regardless of who's doing it or what it is, it could be a real estate auction, equipment auction, or a retirement sale,
dispersal.
There's a certain amount of volatility, good or bad, in every auction.
There is, yes.
And it's all about the customers that come to play that day, or the buyers that come to play that day.
You
only need two.
You only need two.
Yeah.
Yep.
So moving on here a little bit, what's another common way that dealers are remarketing some of these pieces?
Well, depending on the piece, you might have an option of going to wholesalers directly, or a sealed bid process.
Yeah. Well, and that brings up a pretty interesting point. We just got into talking about auctions, and getting that mix of wholesale, retail, the little bit of risk that can be involved depending on how you choose to list it.
Right.
One of the pros with wholesalers is you get a guaranteed cash offer, essentially. Like they're check writers. They're buying it for their business or to flip or whatever it may be. So they're willing to write a check.
Yep.
In most cases, however, you're not getting the full potential money out of that piece. Because what are wholesalers going to do with that piece?
Well, essentially, what wholesalers will look at doing is either, if that piece needs a little work, they may fix it up. Right. That's first and foremost.
Yeah.
But their options really are they're going to either A, sell it retail,
yep,
or B, list it on an auction.
And it's one of those.
And that's what they do ultimately every time.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. It's up to the dealer to decide, am I okay letting this go? Right. Is it a piece that I don't necessarily want on my lot? I want it to be somebody else's worry, somebody else's headache, and move it on down the line. If the answer is yes to that, yeah, explore the wholesale market on it. But you got to be careful. Say it's we'll use a John Deere dealership, for instance. They have, 6 S680 combines in stock. Heavy machinery, pretty costly. A lot of money wrapped up in them. And they're slow movers, right? There's a couple times a year you buy combines.
Generally, yes.
Well, say you're going to wholesale that to, a wholesaler or a jockey. Well, he might turn around and flip it, or he could list it retail. But what is essentially, if he's somewhat in your area, what's he becoming? He's becoming the competition.
The competition,
right?
Because
somebody's looking at that. They're going to look at that S680. They're going to look at the ones that you have and then make that decision. And now you're going head to head with them, which I know what happens. And if it minimizes your risk and you're okay with it, I get it. But you got to be selectful on what you're doing and what you're wholesaling.
You really do. you bring up a very valid point. But one thing I wanted to say, or what we had talked about,
Yeah.
there is a process for each one of these for the
Yes.
dealer or the business owner.
Yes. They all have their part.
They all have their part, but when it comes to processing this, for the dealers we work with, they understand this process. They want to make this business process as simple as possible, not jar up the books,
Yeah.
because that's another subject and we can talk about that another time. But just make this simple as possible.
Yeah.
But each one of these is a solution.
Yeah. And diving a little bit farther in depth to the remarketing, let's talk about the consumer end of it, right? You know, we talk to dealers and consumers all over the country on a daily basis.
Yes, we do.
You know, so we've heard from dealers on things that they do that work, and we've talked to certain consumers that said, hey, this dealership did a great job at this. I would definitely do business with them again. You know, and so let's talk about some of those things. You know, one of the big things is your customer interaction and your consistency with the customer. You know, we touched on it a little bit ago, the fact that it's becoming the new norm to buy a piece of equipment halfway across the country or across the pond and, you know, out of country. You know, that happens as well. So you have to take a proactive approach to this.
You really do. And you know, we've like you said, we've heard from dealers and we've heard from the end user, the consumer. And so we're getting feedback from them all the time. And a lot of the feedback we're getting is the dealers really need to treat their customers across the span proactively, like you said, no matter if it's sales, parts, or service.
Yes.
Because some of these people, some of these dealers, the consumers do want to be contacted consistently, constantly, for their needs.
Right.
And you know, you may pick up a sale or four.
Well, yeah, and with the way that everything's going, you know, if I'm a farmer and I buy a piece that's getting trucked in from a dealership, and 2-3 years roll around and it's time for me to buy another tractor or a combine, I'm going to go to their website and look, as long as I had a good experience with them. You know, because there was a reason why I bought that first piece. It might have been the right machine, or it could have been the right price, or it could have been a combination of the both. You know, and it made sense. So I'm going to continue to shop there as long as it was good. And you know, we spent a lot of time in the auto industry prior to what we're doing now.
You and I have. We were like Bert and Ernie.
Yeah, and so we've been able to take a look at both industries. They're very similar. There's a lot of similarities in how everything's done, with the exception, I feel, the ag industry and the ag dealers, as far as a technology standpoint, are with their customers are 5, 6, 7 years behind the auto industry.
Roughly, yeah.
You know, I remember back in 2010, 2011, 2012, people taking pictures on vehicles they sold, tagging their customers in it, saying what a privilege it was to work with you, or giving a customer a shout out in the service lane, that kind of stuff. And you're starting to see that trickle now into the dealership world, probably in the last couple years. But I think they can do a better job at that, because everybody likes to see their name in the lights.
Exactly.
You know, everybody likes to hear their name.
But I think, you know, I mean, that's a good point. And I think what the auto industry did so well those years, 5, 6, 7 years ago, was the first subject we talked about, was remarketing.
Yes.
Because
yes.
Chris, you and I both know, we did business development with those car dealerships.
Yeah.
And worked a lot with the internet.
Yeah.
And we were literally shipping vehicles all over the U.S.
Well, do you remember that?
And that's due to remarketing.
Well, do you remember the lead that I had got? And I was green in the business, and it was a gentleman from Dubai.
Yeah.
That was looking
I
at
remember that totally.
a standard GT Pontiac Grand Am. Nice car, but in the U.S. doesn't have a lot of luster to it. I mean, it's a normal car.
Right.
You know, I took him serious, and we worked, you know, probably for about a month or so on the deal, and we sent it over to Dubai. in a crate, you know,
Yep.
and that's literally halfway across the world,
Yep.
you know.
Yep.
So it's one of those things that need to focus on it a little bit more. So
You know, Chris, I think a good thing to talk about here, you know, is the dealer to dealer type network,
Yeah.
and then touch on that a little bit, and then I would love to hear about your inventory cycle.
yeah. Well, you know, it's always a good idea for dealers to converse with other dealers. Maybe not necessarily competitors because you're giving out trade secrets, but if it's one of those things where you might develop a relationship with a guy 3 states over, 4 states over, they might be in similar situations as you, but they're doing stuff a little bit different because their philosophy is a little bit different, and there might be a way that they remarket something that works for them, and maybe it's something that you adapt to and you try a little bit, so getting together and having a discussion, whether it be on the phone or at conventions or dealer meetings with these guys, is only going to help move the needle a little bit.
It will. It
Yeah.
will, and you'll see an increased amount of sales that way as
Yeah.
well.
And we talked about the auto industry, and I spent a lot of time there. And one of the things in the auto industry is inventory control, your inventory life cycle.
Turn and burn.
It plays a huge part where, you're 45 to 60 days and that used piece is gone. It has to be gone.
Has to be
because
gone.
it can change 3,000 to 5,000 overnight in some of those situations.
The markets fluctuate
Yeah.
so much; it's unbelievable.
And not so much in the ag world, but you do have seasonal stuff. Construction stays pretty good, transportation stuff stays pretty good, but the ag, there's a little bit more volatility with seasonal stuff and that kind of thing. And so one of the things that I've always preached to my customers is make sure you have a good inventory life cycle and have a plan in place and follow it, and do not get emotionally attached to these pieces of equipment.
Yep.
That's the key.
That's the key: is do not get emotionally attached.
So something that I have proposed to a lot of my dealers, and many of them follow it religiously, and it's nice. But
and it sounds like it's working.
yeah,
So-
it works out really well. But what you do is you get your piece up online. You upload from the beginning with the right pictures, not just snapping one before it goes in the shop to get it online. Market it correctly from the beginning, and then list it at your normal retail price. Day 60 rolls around, check your activity on it. Have you gotten calls on it? Have you gotten emails on it? If not, drop the price a little bit. And then again, you do it at 120, you drop the price. Again, at day 180, drop the price. By day 200, if you still have that piece, you need to be searching for an outlet. That's where you contact, your auction provider, you contact your wholesaler, whatever route you're going. But then by day 245, it's gone. It's
out
off
the
the
door.
lot. It doesn't have a birthday. Because 3, 4, 5 years ago, when the ag market took a huge hit, there were some dealers that had equipment that were 1,400 days old. I mean,
Yeah,
that's some
was just gonna-
birthdays.
Well, yeah, that's 3-4 years old.
And guess what? They took $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 baths on those pieces because they were emotionally attached to it.
Well, the market is what the market is. You
Yeah.
cannot count on the market to go up, down.
Yeah.
You just using your inventory cycle will benefit these dealers greatly,
Yeah,
and it's proven.
yeah.
So,
Well-
I'm glad you brought that up today.
Hopefully, everybody kind of can get something out of this little tidbit that we talked about. And
And if they need more info, just research it, contact us, whatever it may be.
yeah. And as I mentioned at the start, in the second half of the podcast, we're going to sit down with Andy Arps,
Yep.
Platte Valley Equipment. But before we get to that, I would like to give a quick shout out to DPA Auctions. They allow us to bring this podcast free of charge to everybody that listens. Amongst the leaders on the online auction industry, DPA Auctions has provided their customers with strong core values, most affordable commissions, enhanced marketing techniques, and complete full-service experience. As a third-generation company, they are selling made simple. Please visit dpaauctions.com for all your equipment needs. You can also find them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at DPA Auctions. So we appreciate their support.
Very much do. Very
All
much
right,
do.
well, let's get out there and chat with Andy.
Sounds great. Look forward to hearing
All
about it.
right. Here, back on another episode of the Dirt Exchange podcast. Here at the Andy Arps, Service Manager for Platte Valley Equipment. Thanks for joining us and letting us do a little filming here and,
Sure.
and talk to you and pick your brain a little
Absolutely.
bit. Now, obviously, if anybody's from Nebraska, they're familiar with Platte Valley Equipment. You guys got 4 locations: Clarkson, Fremont, Humphrey, and then of course here in Wahoo. So, how long have you been with Platte Valley?
I've been at Platte Valley for about 3 months now.
Okay.
I've been with Deere for about 14 years. So
Okay.
I was a tech in the shop for that
Okay.
13 years.
So you got some experience. You're not just
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm definitely not green. So.
Gotcha. Now, if I remember right, you didn't make the normal transition. You graduated high school, went to college, but you didn't do a diesel technology program. What did
No.
you do?
I actually went to college for A&P. So I started out with that, finished that, and I did that for about 3 years.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
and I'm not very smart. What is AMP?
Aviation mechanics. So
Okay, so working on stuff with real tight
planes.
tolerances.
Oh yeah, very touchy stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't exactly pull over on the side of the road with the plane. So.
right. So efficiency is key, and then also your accuracy and how you're repairing
Yes,
stuff.
absolutely. I mean, it's a very precise thing to be in. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no, you do it, you have somebody else inspect it, and I mean, then there's another person that comes and looks at it again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long process. It's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
Things like that. So.
So tell us about your transition from the aviation world to being with Deere.
Well, the biggest thing was that I wanted to turn more wrenches and just kind of get dirty because you work on planes, everything's pretty clean, cut and
Yeah.
dry. You do your inspection, your annual or whatever, and basically you didn't get to do a lot of like engine work, transmissions, things like
Yeah.
that. They didn't really have that, so I was like, well, what else is there out there?
Yeah.
I thought about automotive. I'm like, okay, I could do that, but I worked on, my own stuff at home. I was like, I really don't want to do that. And I was like, well, what about ag?
Yeah.
Like, well, everybody knows about John Deere. I was like, well, you got to go for the best. So,
There you go.
so I went and applied for the job, and it took some convincing to get the job because at the time he asked me, he's like, why would somebody with an AMT license want to work on ag?
Right.
I'm like, well, he's like, you have no experience. You didn't go through the John Deere program, any program whatsoever. And I was like, well, I tell you what, you give me a chance,
Yeah.
and I won't prove you wrong.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right. He's like, okay. So he gave me the chance, and 14 years later, here I am.
Yeah.
And I loved every minute of it. It's you work like here. I mean, this place is literally a family. I mean, you spend more time with these guys than you do basically your own. So I mean, and everybody here gets along great. Doesn't matter if you're here at the Wahoo store or Fremont, Clarkson, Humphrey. Doesn't really matter. I mean, everybody. I mean, we all like. Obviously we're a team here, but we're a team outside of just Wahoo.
Right. Well, and you guys just had a company softball game.
Yeah, that was.
Did you guys win?
No, we.
Platte Valley won though, right?
Platte Valley won. Yeah. so we went to overtime, lost by 1, but that's
Hey.
okay. At the end of the day, it was a good day.
Yeah,
So
that's the way it goes sometimes, and it's cool that you've, you started out in one place, found your calling,
Yeah.
and you're here. That's a cool story.
I love every minute of this job and talking to the customers. Getting a feel how they're doing it. Sometimes other days are better than others, but you get the one
Naturally.
guy that comes in and it doesn't go so well, but then the next guy will come in, he's like, Andy's like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, what's that? He's like, I don't know how you find nice people like you got in this shop.
Yeah.
He's like,
Well, and I know a few of the guys you got in the shop, and it sounds like, from what I know of them, you got a heck of a team.
oh yeah.
A lot of younger guys
They're young,
that are starting out or been doing it a little while, but early in their careers, and being able to get somebody on that level or that age coming in, you can build a team for years to come that is going to
yeah.
be extremely strong and
Yeah.
knowledgeable.
I mean, it's one thing, getting a tech, and he could have every tool in the, that's required. But if, you don't have a good attitude, respect one another, want to be a team player.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the guys that are really hard to find. And,
Well,
fortunately, I have those guys.
Yeah,
I have,
and how many times is somebody out there asking a colleague for a second opinion?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
it's probably a daily occurrence or multi times a day.
More than not.
Yeah.
It's nice to have that, and if I don't have the answer, I can go ask Chris or one of the other guys, be
Yeah.
like, hey, have you seen this before? Or maybe one of the other stores. you know, and they're like, oh yeah, this is this, and this. I'm like, okay, well, you know, obviously it's impossible to know everything, and that's why everybody's as efficient as they are, is because everybody gets along, talks to one another, talks it out, does a look over, say, is this a good idea to do this way?
Yeah.
Well, you know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but they ask the question before
Yeah.
it gets too far in the wrong direction.
A lot of cases, two heads are always better than one.
Absolutely,
You know.
yeah.
So, well, when we were walking in here, I seen a lot of branding that you don't see pretty much anywhere else. E3. What's that all about?
Okay, E3, and we're not going to get too in depth in it because we'll be here for 2 hours. talking about it.
Right.
But E3 is a program that we have. Basically, you sign up for it. You know, and it's kind of customer base, you know, depending on what they want. But basically what that is it's a program you buy to basically guarantee that, because you get so many inspections
Okay.
with E3, okay? So when you sign up for it, then you get the equipment that you want. You obviously sign that up, and it's guaranteed, you know, then to come
Okay.
in the door, you know. And it's got some perks to it, some parts details and service call information, stuff like that. Some other AMS stuff that obviously comes with it. It's a long list, and it's all good stuff.
Well,
I mean,
while we were setting up, I hopped on the website, PlatteValleyEquipment.com, and just kind of skimmed through it. Yeah, there's a whole list of stuff that you get. It looks like it's a huge value and kind of takes the hassle and the nonsense out of a lot of, you know, the service work or just the typical stuff that has to happen.
Yeah, it's a really good program. I like it. You know, actually, I had a customer. I called him and I said, "Hey, are you going to bring your platform up?" He's like, "Well, I don't know if I want that inspected. I'm not sure." I'm like, "Well, you already bought the E3 program." I said, "You know," he's like, "Oh yeah, oh, okay." And then he's like, "Yeah, I forgot about that." And you bring it in, and it's here right now, and we're actually working on it.
Because it covers like one combine, one tractor, platform, planner.
Yep, it does tractor, and I believe this is correct. The combine, tractor, planter, and platform, and a corn head.
Okay.
Is what it does.
So
And
all the
that-
tools that they use, essentially.
Pretty much
Yeah.
all the extremely important ones, the ones that make you the most money. So.
Well, good,
You know.
good deal. What do you guys got going on in the shop? What kind of stuff are you working on?
Oh, we have a list of things. Right now, mainly combines, what we're trying to do with that.
Okay.
You know, get those out the door so we can get those ready for the guys for harvest. We have a ton of heads out there that need to be done yet. Very few tractors right now, but they'll slowly start rolling out the door. A couple sprayers here and there. Balers and windrowers is
Hay
the thing
season
right
is
now.
the time,
So
yeah.
a lot of that, we're punching those out too. So.
Okay. Walking in here, I notice the shops looks a little bit different. You guys got some stuff going on there. What?
Oh boy.
What are you doing? Doing a remodel?
We're doing a remodel, so we are over halfway done. We've got the one half of the shop done. So to kind of give you an idea of what we did, we actually ripped out all the old insulation. We hired a company to come in to foam it, and then actually just seal it, foam it, and it's 3-inch thick of foam all the way around. So and then we painted it white, and boy, I tell you what, the guys they can't believe how nice it looks, and
It looked bright in there.
yeah, it's very bright. It's going to look really nice. We got the wash bay that got redone too. So I mean,
So it's not going to be your typical dirty, dungy.
no, it's
shop.
It's very bright. You almost have to put sunglasses on in there to go out there anymore. So
Well, good deal. Well, we're kind of in a lull between, you know, most people are harvesting or have planted. We're obviously not ready for harvest. You know, they might be doing a little bit of irrigation and that kind of stuff. So this is usually part of your guys' busy point where, you know, people are bringing stuff in, or you guys have recommended services that you know, suggest that they do about this time. What would you recommend if I was a farmer? What do you recommend I'm doing with my equipment now, or what do I need to take care of before harvest?
right now, I would say basically the combines. We definitely want to get those in, get them inspected, fix what we need to, you know, and just the least amount of times that, you know, that customer breaks down,
Yeah.
the better it is for everybody. He's going to get done quicker.
Yep.
You know, we're still going to be able to keep going, pushing through, you know, here at the shop, you know, and stuff like that. No matter what you have, you know, machine wise, I mean, any color you have is obviously going to break. Okay.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, these machines take a beating. You know, I mean, they're ran
they're
dawn to
ran-
dusk sometimes, you know, or most times I should say. So, and again, that's the most expensive tool they have in their toolbox. And
Right.
unfortunately, there is, you know, mechanical failure. Or, I mean, luckily that's why you're here. You know, it's why all this exists. So,
I mean, it's important to keep that machine going at maximum performance. I mean, 1 hour downtime for a guy is a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
you can get a lot done in an hour. You know,
oh
we're
yeah,
talking,
absolutely.
you know, and obviously this planting season was quite the challenge. I mean,
Yeah.
So so is harvest is going to be the same.
Yeah.
So we kind of want to get these things done ahead of time so we can keep everybody running, so we can, make it run as smooth as possible.
Yeah.
So that's the goal,
Well, good deal. So, anybody looking for any of their John Deere needs, I guess give Platte Valley Equipment a call, and you can find them online, plattevalley.equipment.com. You know, if you're on social media, Twitter, PVE Equip, Facebook also PEV Equip. I'll go ahead and post the links down in the description, and we'll go from there. So,
And I'd like to add, if anybody out there that's watching, if they have questions about it,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter, whatever it is, you're not, you get a lot of guys call, oh, I'm bugging you. It's like, no, you're not bugging me.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the customers, to make sure they get what they need, what they want, and I do the absolute best job that I possibly can. So,
Yeah.
and the guys in the shop do the same. I mean, they do it. They do a very good job of it. Everybody does here, and kind of something that I forgot to mention was, like the parts and the sales and stuff like that. I mean, if there's something you guys are looking for, something like that, we can get you a salesman if, whatever they need,
yeah, absolutely,
So,
absolutely. Well, before we get out of here, I want to talk about a project that you and I, along
Oh, yeah.
with some friends of ours, good friends of ours, I should say,
Absolutely, yeah.
almost like having our own little family, have been working on, and it's Alps Angels. Tell everybody what the Alps Angels is all about.
Okay, well, Alps Angels is, basically we were sitting around a fire one night and we said, you know what, we all ride together, and somebody's like, well, why don't we see if other people want to ride with us,
Yeah.
And we literally that evening came up with the Alps Angels, and then we got together that Sunday, I believe.
Mhm.
We all went riding together and had a little meeting and did some addressing with this and that, and then it's just kind of rolled out from there. And kind of what we do is just we get events going, like our rides that we've had. Some of you guys are familiar with that already. And we just basically whatever money we raise, we pretty much give it back to the community or somebody that's in need of it. I mean, we don't do it for the money, we do it absolutely for the fun.
Well,
I mean, it's just a great time because the people that you run into, it's like we went to South Dakota.
Yeah.
How did we meet? Why
Yeah,
don't you talk about that?
Well, we went to South Dakota on vacation over the 4th, and we were invited there by a guy who attended our first ride, Joel, and rode with him. He showed us all over South Dakota. It was awesome. But yeah, basically, it's just we're a nonprofit in that situation.
Yes,
we use side-by-sides and ATV to raise some money. We got some cool events coming up, and we've done a couple now.
Mhm.
Our first one, we had about 150 people. The second one, we were, I think, right at 250,
I think
or real close.
we were,
but it
yeah.
was cold.
It was cool.
It was,
and that kind of killed us.
Yeah,
You know?
and the people who stuck it out, God bless them. It was amazing.
Yeah, thumbs
But-
up to those guys.
exactly. But it was cool. We did the ride for Carson Biltoff, who's Carson's crew. If you can look him up on Facebook, young, bright, energetic kid. I mean, just a great kid and a great family.
Yes.
But he was diagnosed in his mom's womb with spina bifida, and they went through a whole bunch of stuff. But it was cool to be able to give back to him. I think all in total we raised like $3,500 in one day for him. And then because of that, we've kind of gained a little bit of notoriety locally with the paper and
Yep.
and in our community and in Prague where we live, or you outside and me a little ways away as well. But they had asked us to put on an event for their big celebration, which is Beer Barrel Days, which is
Right.
coming up on August 10th. So we're going to do, and this kind of fits in with your profession a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yes, it does.
We're going to do an ATV, UTV sled pull, just like the tractor pulls, obviously on a little bit smaller scale. So it should be pretty fun. And then we got another September ride coming up,
Yeah.
I think on the 21st, and we'll get some more information out about that. But anybody that's interested in that can go to Facebook and look up at Alps Angels, and we'll have all the info on there. So anything on Alps Angels or anything that we missed that you want to touch on?
Oh, if you guys ever want to go riding, just let us know.
Sounds
If you
good.
got thoughts, ideas, places you want to go,
Yeah,
we're always up to ride. so.
absolutely. Might lose an axle on a camper here or there, but
Oh,
we can
it
handle
happens.
it. So,
It happens.
well, anyway, Andy, thanks for giving us the time.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks for Platte Valley for having us here and letting us do this thing. So we look forward to working with you guys in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bingo.